David Gregory didn't ask him about, didn't push him on this point of how the Israeli military deals with protest. But what's your response to this, John Pilger?
But no one ever presses an Israeli leader, Netanyahu or any of them. None of them are they're given, Israeli leaders were given a legitimacy during what was unconditionally a massacre in December, January of this year. As if, and the sum of that was to suggest, number one, that there was a war between Israel and Gaza, and there wasn't. There was an assault on Gaza that was aimed at civilians, on a defenseless country, on a helpless country, a trapped people. And the second impression was that, yes, Israel is a democracy. We'll discuss this on television with you. We'll discuss the finer points. The way Israel is reported in the United States is media manipulation as almost a high art form. When people like Netanyahu, whose very utterances and whose background would suggest somebody, I think it's fair to say, not credible, but somebody well, those of us would say somebody who would be a prima facie war criminal, is given this kind of legitimacy, not even questioned, not even challenged about the events in his country and his own extreme utterances. Yes, we have cartoon figures like Lieberman, his foreign minister, a very important but a rather grotesque character in a sense. So
Victor Lieberman.
Yes, he can be made, perhaps he can be drawn out as the sort of the strange bad apple in that barrel. But I think it's that legitimacy that mainstream media gives one side, and the sum of that, as far as Palestine is concerned, is that there is no illegitimate occupation, there is no illegality. There's some illegality, as Obama referred to in his Cairo speech, about the continuing building of settlements. But there is no suggestion that this is the longest, most brutal, illegal military occupation in our lifetime.
Let me just go to that for 1 minute. President Obama in Cairo giving his address on the Middle East, talking specifically about the settlements.
The United States does not accept the legitimacy of continued Israeli settlements. This construction violates previous agreements and undermines efforts to achieve peace. It is time for these settlements to stop.
That was President Obama in Cairo in his heralded address to the Muslim world. John Pilger, he says the continued expansion of settlements has to stop. Your response, and then overall to his entire address.
Well, he said the continuing response, but what about all the settlements, the so-called settlements, colonies, that have so honeycombed the occupied territories over a period of now almost 2 decades? I thought the most significant aspect of that statement was that he referred to the continuing. They should stop the continuing settlements. So leave the ones that have already been built. Let's stop building them now. And of course, the Israelis, ever resourceful in this area, got round this very quickly by issuing building licenses to those settlements that were about to be built and hadn't been built, as if they had been built, so they wouldn't fall into President Obama's category. I didn't think that President Obama's Cairo speech added up to anything. Yes, it had different language. It didn't use Bush's aggressive, you're with us or against us. It was very soothing. I read one commentator's rather apt description of Obama's words as supplying a kind of mood music to the Middle East. But in the end, what did he offer? Did he talk about the law? And the whole issue of Palestine is really about a respect for law. Did he go back to the 1976 resolution? There it is. It calls on a Palestine state. Did he reach out to the government in Gaza, which, in spite of the media distortion, has time and again called for a two-state agreement in the Middle East? Did he make any move that would begin to resolve this injustice? Did he paint it as an injustice? Because that's what it is. It's an injustice on a scale that none of us in our own countries, in our own lives, would tolerate. The answer is no, he didn't. Now, this is not to suggest that there will be some helpful window dressing here and there. I don't know. But it seems to me that the pressure on Obama over the Middle East, as indeed over so many other issues, has been so minimal that he can simply perform as Bush light.
He did, however, I believe for the first time for a president, admit the U.S. is involved in the 1953 overthrow of a democratically elected leader, and that was in Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh.
Yeah, but gee, what a concession, Amy. We get 1953, 56 years ago. That's easy. That's easy. But it's what has happened since then. The demonizing of Iran goes on. The lecturing of Iran, which is an extremely politically complex society, goes on. And the policy is unchanged. The crime always is independence. Iran is an independent state and has almost miraculously maintained itself in forms that we might not approve of, certainly, but it has maintained itself as an independent major state in the Middle East. That is absolutely intolerable to the U.S. state. And Obama has not shifted from that at all. He's made a number of patronizing appeals to the Iranians, but now as he's in effect saying, that the protesters should be allowed to control the streets of Tehran. Turn that around. What if it was suggested that protesters should be allowed to control the streets of Washington? But that's, of course, another side of double standards. I really don't believe anything has changed. And if it is going to change, if in the Middle East, as in other parts of the world, there has to be greater pressure from within the anti-war movement, within the peace movement, within all those groups that have allied themselves with the Democrats
Renowned filmmaker John Pilger. Will continue with my interview with him in a minute.